Okay, this is going to be the difficult women episode. Alrighty. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Barrow Podcast. Today is a book episode. We're going to be looking at Difficult Women by David Plante. What a title, eh? What a title.
Very apt.
Very apt, do you think? Well, this is following on from our conversation last week, which was about the engagement cake. And this program's been following, you know, a few difficult women.
Yeah.
But I suppose, do you have any sort of introductory things to say about this? Or should
one of the cherished quotes from here is being difficult sets you apart.
Being difficult sets you apart. There you go. That's right.
Given me license.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it does give you license to just go
Yeah.
along your merry way.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so. Well, I'll just read the blurb real quick and about the author. So, Difficult Women presents portraits of three extraordinary, complicated, and yes, difficult women, while also raising intriguing and, in their own way, difficult questions about the character and motivations of the keenly and often cruelly observant portraitist himself. The book... Can I finish the blurb, or are you going to jump in?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Go ahead.
The book begins with David Plante's portrait of Jean Rhys in her old age, when the publication of The Wide Sargasso Sea, after years of silence that had made Rhys's great novels of the 1920s and 30s as good as unknown, had at last gained genuine recognition for her. Rhys, however, can hardly be said to be enjoying her new fame. A terminal alcoholic, she curses and staggers and rants like King Lear on the heath in the hotel room that she has made her home, while Plante looks impassively on. Sonia Orwell is his second subject, a suave exploiter and hapless victim of her beauty and social prowess, while the unflappable, brilliant and impossibly opinionated Germaine Greer sails through the final pages, ever ready to set the world and an erring companion right.
Yeah, well, they are certainly three very different women. Complicated in their own way. Can I just start off by saying, though, there was, and I took this on board considering what we're doing,
Sure.
the notion that the author or this kind of writing can be invasive. Have you got a good perspective on the particular person?
Well,
I don't know whether is memoir relevant.
Is this memoir?
I think it was asking a general question.
Right. Yeah.
You know, how important is that mode of writing?
Okay.
Because I think there was some criticism.
There was a lot of criticism.
Wasn't there?
Yeah. So what I was going to say was, like, this book basically is, it's kind of a triptych, really. Like, it's three isolated pieces in one, and they're three portraits of people that the author spent time with, and those three happen to be Jean Rhys, who's a novelist that I particularly like, Sonia Orwell, who was George Orwell's last wife and widow, but they weren't even married for very long before he passed away. And then Germaine Greer, the Australian feminist.
I'm not saying I find it like that. I find that he lets the people speak for themselves.
Okay.
You really get a view of those three different women and where they're at.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to sort of explain that, it's those three portraits. And yeah, like technically it's memoir because it's his sort of reflections. I think it's sort of written out of his journals, which I think he kept 10 years prior. They were made 10 years prior to the publication of this book.
Right.
And then, of course, yeah, it was really divisive upon publication because, you know, the portraits are perhaps unflattering, and there's been a lot of condemnation of this book as well as of David Plante himself. I was just going to read the bio of Plante. So David Plante is the author of 9 novels, including his Francoeur trilogy, The Family, the Country and the Woods. He has also written several works of non-fiction in addition to Difficult Women, most recently The Pure Lover, and published 2 volumes of selections from his diary, Becoming a Londoner and Worlds Apart. He lives in Italy and in Lucca, Italy, and Athens, Greece. So I was interested in this because it raises this question of, as you say, like invasive, and I suppose ethics around writing. So one of the things is, you know, this book raises a number of things. Like for me, it raises the question of intentions. So like, why did he write this book? Like, why this book? What are his intentions? And also, I guess, how an author chooses to treat their subject, and what kind of loyalty do you have to your subject? What kind of ethical or moral obligation do you have to your subject? Yeah.
Yeah, but they're 3 portraits of 3 very different women, and if you don't like some of the characteristics of the women, that's not. I mean, he's just presenting them as they are. Why is that seen as a difficult thing? Sorry, a pun on difficult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I guess I don't really understand what you mean. Like you're just sort of like, there's nothing to consider. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't mean that. But I wondered why there was such a reaction to it.
Well, I mean, I suppose that the reaction is, I think the overall the reaction is specifically to what people perceive as being. Well, see, this brings up questions around memoir and doing this, which is what I know that you said originally. Yeah. But like, I think generally the thing that's taken issue with, and like you can kind of see it in the blurb, is that Jean Rhys gets a much longer piece of the blurb.
Yes.
And I actually believe that Germaine Grier's section is the longest. But all the emphasis appears to be on the depiction of Jean Rhys, which, like, you know, it's not a spoiler to say the encounter with Rhys is he goes to her hotel room and she's so drunk that she falls in the toilet.
Yeah.
But she's also like an old lady, and she's quite vulnerable in her life and in her dealings with David Plante. So I what people would object to there, like, I mean, do you need me to explain what they would object to? Do you?
Maybe I do.
Well, do you really? Like, I don't object to anything, really, but I don't understand what you're not understanding.
No, I am saying people may have been shocked by the person that she is, or the person that she became. Mm-hmm. So do you not write about someone because it might offend the sensibilities of people's...
I don't think it's sensibility step. Like,
Yeah.
I really think you're kind of missing the point. I think that it is more that it's like kicking someone while they're down is more the point. It's not about her and her behaviour. It's about his decision to expose something that I'm assuming people would say it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary to write about a little old lady falling in the toilet. Like, it's not dignified, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so
yes, I'm not questioning that.
the point is more, Jesus, the point is more in the realm of like power and exploitation, and that's what it's in the realm of. It's not in the realm of we're shocked that Jean Rhys was so drunk. It's more, why did he write about it?
Well, that then brings up, why do you write about anything that's that causes discomfort?
Yeah, but I think in this case, and that's kind of more the point, is that it's not his discomfort to write about. And that is more the thing. So it's like...
I see, yes.
So it's like, what is his level of ethical obligation and loyalty to his subject?
Yeah. I was just saying that big statement about memoir.
Yeah, sure.
I actually see that,
Yeah. So I think it's more, it's more about that. It's like when you, when you're close to somebody and then you turn around and write about them, that is perceived as, it can be perceived all sorts of ways. I'll read parts of the introduction to the book, which kind of, highlights this generally. Where is it? So he writes about, Sonia Orwell's spiky hospitality. At table I tried to take my place in the talk, but most of it, as I discovered often happened in London, had to do with people I didn't know. Whenever I did speak up, Sonia glared at me and said, "That's silly." I kept sweating. The conversation turned to a writer whose work I didn't like, and I said something about it, and Sonia said to me harshly, almost shouting, "What do you know about writing?" And then in the introduction, they say this, right? So in incidents like this, one can feel both the affront and the social claustrophobia of the moment, and an understanding is reached between memoirist and reader. How not to cheer on the extra man who is treated harshly. So we're on his side, right? The diary becomes a refuge where wounded pride is offered for certain kinds of poison. Writing it down word for word is the best antidote. Yet questions about tact and taste continue to orbit the book, presenting moral challenges not just for the writer but for the reader as well. Difficult Women was Plante's first sustained work of non-fiction, and reading it now I am reminded of what Janet Malcolm said about writers who insinuate themselves into the lives of others. Listen, quote, "Every journalist who is not too stupid or too full of himself to notice what is going on knows that what he does is morally indefensible," end quote. Malcolm famously argued that when a writer speaks to a subject, there is at the core of the transaction a kind of seduction and betrayal, putting an indelible moral stain on the fabric of the relationship. Quote, "He, the writer, is a kind of confidence man, preying on people's vanity, ignorance, or loneliness, gaining their trust and betraying them without remorse. Like the credulous widow who wakes up one day to find the charming young man and all her savings gone, so the consenting subject of a piece of non-fiction writing learns, when the article or book appears, his hard lesson. Journalists justify their treachery in various ways according to their temperaments. The more pompous talk about freedom of speech and, quote, the public's right to know. The least talented talk about art, capital A. The seamliest murmur about earning a living. And that's the full quote from Malcolm. One cannot help but wonder if Difficult Women was something of an ambush, and if so, what was the moral justification for reporting moments in the life of Sonia Orwell and Jean Rhys, both deceased before the book's publication, which they might plausibly denounce as an invasion of privacy?
Right.
Plante is gentler with the living, and Germaine Greer makes it through largely unblemished. Who and what is not fair game in a writer's work? Whatever rules of decorum govern the writing of memoir, Plante flagrantly disregards them, reminding me of the great blues lyric by Sonny Boy Williamson, "Don't start me talkin', I'll tell everything I know." Of course, someone willing to do that has a real hold on our attention. In Plante's book, The Past, rendered without the faintest elegiac quiver and seemingly without fear of consequence, remains shocking as if it was still present.
Okay, I have been too simplistic in my view. I see what they're getting at.
Yeah.
That, yeah. I think I just read it, too simplistically.
Well, hang on.
That's the history of that person, or that's history of that moment.
Yeah.
But I really do see that could be problematic.
Well, I mean, I'm sounding way more conservative than I actually am, and I'm sounding. This isn't not meant to be a hand-wringing kind of episode. I chose Difficult Women because I actually find it very, very funny, and I think that I like that David Plante wrote and published it, and I have always defended the book. People who have seen it as kind of misogynistic or as another kind of like a moral betrayal, I sort of think, well, that's all well and good, but, I also find that a little, there's a pretension to that,
Yes.
that doesn't really square with me. And I think my issue, if I had an issue with the book, which I don't really, my only issue is that as a book, I've always been confused by his intentions within the work as a character. And what I mean by that is that he doesn't investigate, and this is my read of it, maybe I'm wrong, but I always found it interesting. I thought what was most interesting about it was why this young man wants to hang out with these older women, and also he's gay, isn't he? I mean, he's not there's a kind of sensuous quality, at least to Germaine Greer, that I'm like, well, maybe there's some sort of sexual pull, but he's gay, so that's not what's going on. So is this some sort of little lost puppy boy who's looking for a mother, or is this somebody just rubbernecking for, cultural clout? It was always kind of, I wished he'd gone deeper into, and by the way, he throws himself under the wheels as well. I mean, he does not look good for doing any of this, and certainly not for publishing the book. So there is, I would say also, like, I don't like the word brave, but there is a certain kind of resolve to him doing what he's done.
Yeah.
So I respect that. I'm like, I can do what you want, right? Like, write what you want, publish what you want. That's fine. But I always was looking in the book for just a little bit more introspection as to, like, why is he just hanging out with these people?
I mean, again, simplistically, I'm just seeing someone delving into the lives, the personalities of three rather famous figures.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And maybe that was actually, maybe he saw it quite simply too. Maybe ultimately he just thought, well, I spent time with these people and I got these interesting scenes, and I can create, as I say, like some sort of a triptych of portraits.
Yeah,
So
interesting
that's all there is to
anecdotes
it.
on what they thought about what they did and who they mixed with.
Sure. But Jean Rees falling in the toilet is not an anecdote about...
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what I mean? That is what the pushback is.
Okay.
The pushback is that. See, if he'd taken his materials and structured it much more like a... Rather than it be these like three, here's this person, here's this person, here's this person. If he'd structured it as, here is me, David Plante, who is whatever he is, searching for a mother, searching for a mentor, whatever, and then I met so-and-so, and this is what she told me about love and life and writing, and I'm trying to work out what writing is in my life, and then I mixed with Sonia Orwell, and it stays to that theme.
Okay. Yep, I understand. Yeah.
That, if he'd written that book, there would be nothing to discuss.
Yes.
But he didn't write that book. He had moments of that, but also coupled with this...
Moments of deeply personal stuff.
Yeah. That was, perhaps embarrassing. And published after two people had passed away and couldn't, protest it. So I sound conservative, and I don't care about any of this.
Yeah.
I'm just explaining it to you.
Yes.
And what my point was, and why I picked the book, was because, if I look at my own notes over here for a second, well, I chose it because it brought up these questions for us, and also to get you to kind of understand what will be leveled at us,
Yeah, and I think, that's what I was trying to do in a very general way.
Sure, no, I understood that.
People would still question what we're doing as that, opening up the door to things that maybe should stay private. We're using the justification, or not justifying anything, but we're saying, well, this is our story, so we're allowed to speak about it.
Sure, yeah. But is it fully our stories? I mean, that's the other thing, is that just because you were in the room, is it your story?
Yeah, so from that same point of view, you're talking about other people's behaviour.
And depicting other people to a public.
Yeah.
Now, I've already gone through this experience. I have already written a book that was fiction, published as fiction, but, parts of it were, fairly thinly veiled memoir, I suppose. And that was actually pointed out in a review where somebody said that the structure of it, this is clearly his memoir. And I thought, oh, okay. And that review is a fuckwit anyway. So
You're going on record as saying that.
It doesn't matter. No one will know who I'm talking about. He was somebody I met in real life, and I thought, my God, this is why I hate people my own age. But we have, or I have, already gone through the experience of writing personally and writing about family, so-called, and being condemned for that, and also being accused of betraying others for depicting them. And so...
Yeah, well, there would be people, I know who you're referring to there.
Of course you know who I'm referring to.
I know about all that, but there would be actually genuine, or people with genuine concerns that you're betraying, or we're betraying the family? My answer to that is it's our family to betray or uphold
sure.
you know,
You
you haven't experienced this and you are not living with the consequences of it.
Well, yeah, for sure. Like I certainly, I think that you and I have, like, again, not that I care, but we have more justification than perhaps Plante has to write about somebody.
I see that. Yeah.
But at the same time, it is about, like what I said, about if he had written a book where he was centering himself and that thematically the book was searching for a mentor and a mother, and so he was only using those figures to explore that theme, which would not allow him to, have Jean Rhys fall down the toilet.
Yeah.
Because there'd be no room for that.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
That's a different book.
Yeah.
And so it becomes this question of not only who or what your subject is, but then how you treat it, like how you contextualize it within the greater book, and what is the point of the book, right? And so that's why I said I picked this, because it brings up two things. It brings up intentions. What are your intentions? And the other thing is, what is your ethical, moral obligation or loyalty to your subject and how you treat that subject?
Right.
So those are the two kind of those two kind of things that that it highlights.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just sort of made me think about, like, well, how are we treating our subjects? Because I don't think there's,
I think we're going all right with that.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think.
Because I think there's an understanding of where they came from and what's affected them and how they became who they were and the influence they exerted. I think we do get that across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, here's another thing, right? And I know how you'll feel about this, which is that you'll sort of agree with me flat out, because it sits a little bit more with what you said originally, which is, it just happened, like it's just been depicted, like whatever. Like you said, you sort of condemned yourself a little bit here today where you said, oh, well, I've come at this too simplistically. And I'm like, no, I don't think you have. I would say that you haven't. I would say that you just don't see this stuff because you just don't think it's all that relevant. And
I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't grasp this. Like you sort of came across before. I want to let you bail yourself out here, because that's not who you are. You're just sort of like, oh, people have an issue with that. I don't. But what I'm saying is that here's the thing I was going to say. When it comes to Jean Rhys falling in the toilet. Now, I've done more damage for this because I've said it so many times today.
I'm actually...
Yeah, it's on purpose. Man.
Yeah.
Jean Rhys, little old lady, drunk, falling in a toilet. The thing that when people come out and they say, oh, well, he shouldn't have done that to her, treated her like that, because it's embarrassing. My opinion is it's not embarrassing, so it doesn't matter.
That's exactly right.
I know.
And I think I was sort of trying to make that
I know you were.
point.
I know what you were trying to say.
You read what's in front of you. It might move you. It might, I've got a similar... Again, I'm relating to what we're doing. I've got a similar family background. But you're not raging about it.
Well, so
Surely you're not raging about who's writing this and how dare they.
well,
I don't get that. That's the same with any, and to go further, we're in this era now where we're not just picking up a book and not just relating to what the story is or the characters or if or the real people involved. We're looking deeply into the motivations or who the writer is.
well, so here we go. So
That's what I was trying to get at before.
no, I know that, and I thought we'd get to it later in the episode. I didn't think we'd jump off on it. The notion of tact and taste and the notion of ethics is so middle class, pretentious, swaddle, twattish nonsense that I'm more offended by someone worrying about whether the book is in poor taste
Yes.
than anything depicted in the book.
That's exactly right.
That's what offends me.
Yeah.
Now, again, when I wrote my book and it was published, a reviewer couldn't give it a review because there was a naughty word in the very first paragraph.
So don't even start me.
And then
Please don't start me.
a highly pretentious bookshop, they had to give it a write-up, and they said that it was great, but then they also had to come in and say at the end, but it's also crude at times. Crude. And I thought, well, the book is written from the perspective of a 16-year-old boy. Have you met a 16-year-old boy that wasn't crude at times? And also crude at times? Like, who gives a shit? It's the book you're reading. That's the book. That was what was given to you. You don't get to make these moral judgments about pieces. You need to read them as they are.
Yeah.
And that is why I like this book very much and always have, and have found it ridiculous and amusing that it's been divisive at all, because that is pretension.
That's exactly right.
So let me continue on here in the introduction. Now, this sums up the reading literature culture of today.
Yeah.
Perfectly. So it goes on to say this. Plante's memoir has some of the same power as his novels. From the outset of his career, he was attuned to the indignities of aging and to how our bodies would wordlessly confess to our helpless animal nature. In The Family, the Woods and the Country, his trilogy about a Catholic French-Canadian working-class family in Rhode Island, Plante's fascination with what many writers would choose to omit is apparent from the opening pages. Listen. Quote, when his father leaned forward, the bathrobe came away from his chest and Daniel saw underneath to an armpit. End quote. I mean, how shocking. Later in the same novel, quote, Daniel left his mother and brother and walked towards the exit to go to the toilet. He passed the old women sitting in a long row along the side of the hall under the pipes. Their mouths were turned down at the corners. They had chin hair. Their arms were fat and loose-fleshed, and they kept them folded. Daniel walked at a distance from them, imagining they would emit a smell, end quote. Now, the idea that most writers would choose to omit these frank depictions of, quote, the indignities of aging, it means that most writers are liars. Most writers are pretentious, overeducated, underemployed, middle-class cunts who can't get to anything because they're offended by existing in their own fucking bodies. They are pathetic, okay? As are most people in publishing.
Oh dear.
As are most people in academia, okay? So,
Well,
as far as I'm concerned, I would take the plunger and shove Jean Rhys further down the toilet, and thank you for writing your book, Mr. Plante.
that's exactly my point.
I know it's your point.
That the depiction was not cruel to her. It was a faithful depiction to where she was at
It
in
was
life.
just a depiction.
Thank you.
It's just a depiction. Relax. See,
Yeah.
writers were meant to get to, in my opinion, a truth, a capital T truth
Yeah.
about life. And
Guess what? There's an ugly side of life.
but this is my point, is that when Plante is described as being, and there's all these coded words, he's a frank author, he's a this author. So he's a crude author, he's a rude author. And I'm like, this is a class-based judgment.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is, guess what? David Plante came from humble beginnings, and he was around rich twattery, and it was probably rather amusing to him to find out that this cultural elite is filled with dumbos and losers and undignified drunks. And so he wrote about it because it's funny to him. As it was often funny to me to find out that the owner of a particular publishing house who puts books out with these, they're all life-affirming stories, was having an affair, a married man with children, having an affair with a person from an editing pool at another publishing house that I knew about, while not publishing one of my novels because it just wasn't affirming enough. I love these people that go out on the platform of their virtues, but underneath it all, we're all getting drunk and falling down the toilet, aren't we really? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Plante, for writing your book. Fuck off, everybody else. Do you have anything to add, Mother?
I think you've said it all.
I'll write what I fucking well please.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.